"What in the seven hells?" muttered Supreme Commander Korvac, as reports flooded in of a tiny backwater planet achieving FTL travel centuries ahead of schedule. This violated the Galactic Empire's laws of technological development, and someone would pay dearly. Deep beneath the Nevada desert, brilliant young aerospace engineer Daniel Phillips grinned triumphantly as humanity's first faster-than-light drive hummed to life. 3 years of grueling 20-hour days spent deciphering the alien scout ship's propulsion system, all to give humanity a fighting chance among the stars. Phillips jumped as klaxons blared. Armed guards stormed the lab. "Report," barked the security commander. "What did you do, Phillips?" "Nothing, just a low-power test." The commander pointed at a display showing a massive dreadnought in Earth orbit. "Does that look like nothing? The entire Draconis battle fleet just arrived." A terrifying reptilian face filled the view screen. "Attention, primitives of Earth. I am Supreme Commander Korvac of the Galactic Empire. You have unlawfully developed restricted technology. Surrender your FTL drive and its creator to us within 1 rotation of your planet, or be annihilated." The screen went black. The commander gripped Phillips's shoulder. "We're at DEFCON 1. Secure that prototype and grab your go-bag. Evac chopper leaves for the lunar base in 5. Phillips snatched up the drive with shaking hands. He had just wanted to give humanity the stars. Now he had to figure out how to save them from a war they couldn't possibly win. The Chinook's rotors whirred as Phillips strapped himself into a seat, the FTL drive prototype secured tightly in his lap. A TV mounted on the cabin wall blared with breaking news. World leaders had unanimously rejected the alien commander's demands. The UN Secretary-General declared that Earth would not surrender its greatest technological leap or the man who made it possible. Humanity would fight. Phillips felt a mixture of pride and dread. He had given his species the ability to travel the stars, but now that same technology had drawn them into a war against a far superior foe. As the chopper touched down, Phillips was whisked into an underground tram. It accelerated rapidly through a tunnel, then burst out into a cavernous hangar carved into the moon's surface. General Graves greeted Phillips as he stepped out, his weathered face grim. The general led him past rows of sleek fighters and into an R&D lab, engineers hunched over glowing alien devices, working frantically. "When that Draconis ship crashed 15 years ago, we got a glimpse of what was out there," Graves explained. "Weapons beyond anything we had. Shields that could repel nukes. We've been preparing ever since." Phillips stared at a rack of rifles that looked like props from a sci-fi movie. "I thought I was the only one working on alien tech." "Son, you're brilliant, but you're not the only egghead on this rock. With that drive of yours, though, we might just have a chance. We need you to install it in our fighters." Phillips shook his head vehemently. "It's never been tested at full power. There's no telling what could happen." Graves pointed at a display showing dozens of alien contacts descending on Earth. "We're out of time and options, Phillips. You know how your drive works better than anyone. Make it happen." Phillips ran a hand through his hair, thinking rapidly. The general was right. His drive was Earth's only advantage against the invasion force. An idea formed, a dangerous, desperate one. "I'll do it, but on one condition," Phillips said. "I fly the lead fighter. I'm the only one who can push the drive to its limits. It's the only way we even the odds." Graves looked ready to object, but alarms started blaring as alien dropships entered the atmosphere. "Damn it, Phillips, you're too important to risk, but hell, maybe a little insanity is what we need right now. Get those drives in and get suited up." Phillips sprinted to the hangar, shouting instructions to the engineers. They worked at a blistering pace, ripping out old drives and carefully slotting in Phillips's design. In mere minutes, a dozen fighters hummed with the new FTL engines. Phillips zipped up his flight suit with shaking fingers, then clambered into the lead fighter's cockpit. As the canopy lowered into place, he gripped the control stick and took a deep breath. One way or another, the battle for Earth was about to begin. Supreme Commander Korvac slammed his fist on the console, the metal denting under the force of his blow. His red eyes blazed with fury as he watched the primitive planet continue to turn serenely below, the humans' refusal to submit to his demands echoing in his mind. All fighters, target their military installations and major cities. Burn their defenses to ash, show them the price of defiance, Korvac snarled into the comm. Acknowledgements crackled back. Korvac allowed himself a smile full of sharp teeth, picturing the smoke soon to billow up from the planet's surface. A proximity alert shattered his satisfaction. Korvac whirled, clawed hands flying over the console. There, emerging from the dark of space, a dozen tiny specks rocketed towards his fleet at unfathomable velocity. "Impossible," Korvac hissed. "They couldn't have—" His words choked off as the human fighters opened fire. Lances of incandescent plasma ripped through the void, punching through the shields and hulls of his forward squadrons like they were made of paper instead of the strongest alloys in the galaxy. Draconis ships blossomed into fireballs by the dozen. Korvac could only watch in disbelief as the small fleet of human ships tore into his fighters, outmaneuvering them with preternatural speed and agility. They blinked in and out of existence, FTL drives flaring as they dodged volleys of return fire that should have reduced them to molten slag. At the head of the human formation, Phillips felt the G-forces crushing him back into his seat as he jinked and juked his fighter through a series of stomach-churning maneuvers. His hands danced over the control panel, pushing the FTL drive to its limits as he teleported the ship in ways that should have been physically impossible. The stars outside his canopy stretched into dizzying streaks of light. The Draconis ships couldn't touch him. Their pilots had trained for decades, honing their skills against the best the galaxy had to offer, but they had never faced a foe like this. The Earth fighters ran circles around them, blinking behind them and pummeling their flanks and disappearing again before they could even begin to get a target lock. Korvac slammed his fist down again as he watched his fighters picked apart. His shock and disbelief crystallized into rage, cold and sharp. No primitives would best the Draconis ascendancy. He would not be defeated here, not by the likes of them. "Fire the planet busters," he said, his voice terrifyingly calm. "All of them." The bridge crew hesitated a moment. The Planet Buster missiles had been outlawed by the Galactic Council for centuries, each one capable of cracking a continent in half, but there was no disobeying Korvac. With a shuddering roar, the missiles erupted from the mothership's launch base, the nuclear fire of their engines burning against the black. Phillips's heart seized in his chest as he saw them, a dozen trails of light arcing towards the blue marble of Earth. He knew that he and his squadron couldn't possibly shoot them all down, not when they were already locked in a desperate dogfight with the remaining Draconis ships. Cold despair clawed at his mind, the images of the missiles raining down on his homeworld, on everyone he had ever known or loved. No, he wouldn't let it happen. He refused. Phillips wrenched his fighter into a screaming turn and punched the throttle to full, rocketing towards the looming bulk of the Draconis mothership. The FTL drive whined in protest as he pushed it beyond every safety limit, redlining it until the whine became a tortured scream. Korvac saw him coming, this single mote of defiance blazing towards him. His lips curled back from his teeth in a snarl. "Shoot him down!" The mothership's point defense cannons swiveled to track Phillips, unleashing a storm of fire, filling the space around him with a latticework of deadly energies. Phillips gritted his teeth and held course. Tracers skimmed past his canopy close enough to scorch the glass. At the last possible second, Phillips' hand stabbed down on the FTL controls. Space twisted around him, the stars shattering into a kaleidoscope. And he emerged inside the mothership's shields, so close to the hull that he could see the rivets, could almost reach out and touch the metal. He didn't hesitate. Phillips's finger tightened on the trigger, sending the last of his ordnance straight into the mothership at point-blank range, the rockets and plasma charges ripping through unshielded armor to detonate deep in the bowels of the ship. He flipped the fighter end for end, and FTL blinked back out as secondary explosions started to bloom across the mothership's hull. Huge sections of the ship went dark as power failed, the Planet Buster missiles starting to drift off course. For a single moment, Phillips felt a surge of hope, and then Korvac's voice snarled across the comm channel. "Diverting all power to secondary command nodes. The missiles will reach their targets. This isn't over, humans." Phillips watched in horror as the missiles corrected course, homing back in on Earth. The mothership was belching fire, reeling from his assault, but it wasn't enough. He hadn't stopped it completely. And now, with his weapons spent and his FTL drive pushed to the breaking point, Phillips knew he had only one option left: to save his world, even if it meant not coming back from it himself. Phillips knew there was only one way to stop the Planet Busters. He opened a comm channel to his squadron. "All fighters, focus fire on Sector 7G of the mothership's hull. We need to breach through to the reactor core." Acknowledgements crackled back. The Earth fighters formed up around Phillips, their weapons charging. As one, they unleashed a devastating barrage of plasma cannons and missiles, the combined firepower slamming into the Draconi's ship's shields. The barrier flickered, weakened by Phillips's previous assault. In his cockpit, Phillips's hands flew over the controls, rerouting power to his FTL drive. He disengaged the safeties, the drive whining in protest as he pushed it beyond its limits. Warning lights flashed red across his console, radiation alarms blaring in his ears. He gritted his teeth and kept pushing, watching the drive's energy levels climb into the red. The hull of the mothership buckled under the onslaught, armor plates peeling away to reveal the glowing core of the reactor. Phillips's targeting computer flashed green, a lock. It was now or never. He stabbed the FTL controls, the stars stretching into lines as space warped around him. He emerged inside the mothership, so close to the reactor that his canopy instantly polarized to protect his eyes from the glare. Proximity alarms screamed, the heat and radiation overwhelming his senses. With seconds to spare, Phillips reached for the eject handle and pulled. Explosive bolts fired, blasting the canopy away. The instant before the ejection rockets fired, he hit the FTL control one last time. As he blinked back out into space, his fighter erupted into a miniature sun behind him. A massive antimatter explosion consumed the reactor, setting off a chain reaction that ripped through the mothership like a supernova. Secondary explosions marched through the hull, the ship coming apart at the seams. Phillips materialized in the silent void, alone. His suit's integrity alarm screamed at him, red lights flashing as his air supply vented into space. He gasped, lungs straining, vision narrowing to pinpricks. But even as darkness crept in at the edges of his sight, he saw the mothership shatter into a billion fragments, a final few gargantuan explosions tearing it into unrecognizable debris. The Planet Buster missiles, caught in the blast, detonated prematurely, their deadly payloads dissipating harmlessly into the void. Earth was safe. Phillips had done it. But as his suit's systems failed one by one, he knew he might not live to see his world again. He struggled to remain conscious as a rescue shuttle grew larger in his fading vision, the voices of its crew washing over him in waves of static. On the blue-green globe below, the tide of battle turned. News of the mothership's destruction spread like wildfire through the defending human forces. They struck back against the invaders with renewed ferocity and purpose, bolstered by the knowledge that the greatest threat had been eliminated. But even as the last of the Draconi's forces fell, Phillips knew this was far from over. The Empire would come for Earth again, seeking revenge for this humiliation. Humanity had won the battle, but the war for the galaxy was just beginning. Phillips blinked up at the stark white ceiling of the lunar base's medical wing, his body aching from the battle that had nearly claimed his life. He shifted on the thin mattress, trying to sit up, but a firm hand on his shoulder stopped him. "Easy there, hotshot. You're not going anywhere just yet," General Graves said, his weathered face creased with a mix of concern and relief. "You gave us quite a scare out there." Phillips managed a weak grin. "Sorry, sir. Couldn't let those bastards have the last word." Graves chuckled, but his expression quickly turned serious. "Well, your little stunt bought us a victory, but this fight is far from over. We've got a lot of work to do." As if on cue, A young lieutenant entered the room, her face a mask of controlled excitement. "Sir, we've managed to capture several Draconis pilots and technicians from the downed ships. They're being held in the brig." Graves nodded, his eyes never leaving Phillips. "Good. Get a team together and start interrogating them. We need to know everything we can about these bastards and their technology." He turned back to Phillips. "And you, Hotshot, are going to lead the interrogation efforts as soon as the dock clears you for duty. Your knowledge of their tech could be invaluable." Phillips swallowed, his mouth suddenly dry. Interrogation? He was an engineer, not a spy, but he knew Graves was right. He had a unique understanding of the Draconis technology, and that made him the best man for the job. It was 2 days before the doctors finally gave Phillips the all-clear. He wasted no time in heading to the brig, his steps echoing in the stark metal corridors. The guards let him into the interrogation room, where a young Draconis technician sat hunched over the table, his scaly hands cuffed before him. "I am Lieutenant Phillips," he said, taking a seat across from the alien. "And you are?" The Draconis looked up, his slitted eyes filled with a mix of fear and defiance. "Zorax," he hissed. Phillips leaned forward, his gaze intense. "Zorax, we need to know everything you can tell us about your empire, your technology, and why you attacked us." Zorax shifted in his seat, his claws scraping against the metal table. "Korvac," he spat, as if the name were poison. "He acted without the full sanction of the Empire. He's a rogue warlord, with designs on the throne." Phillips frowned. "What do you mean? I thought Korvac was your leader." Zorax shook his head. "The Draconis are just one of many races in a fragile galactic alliance. We are held together by strict laws and treaties, overseen by a governing body known as the Galactic Council." He leaned forward, his voice lowering to a whisper. "Korvac saw your development of FTL technology as a threat to his plans. He decided to eliminate you before you could join the galactic stage and upset the balance of power." Phillips sat back, his mind reeling. Earth had unwittingly stumbled into a much larger political game, one with stakes far beyond their own planet. Korvac's failed invasion was sure to draw the attention of this Galactic Council. As if summoned by his thoughts, an alarm blared through the base. Phillips rushed to the command center, Zorax's words ringing in his ears. On the main view screen, a new fleet of ships hung in Earth's orbit, their sleek hulls bearing unfamiliar emblems. "Sir, we're being hailed," a communications officer reported, her voice tight with tension. General Graves nodded. "On screen." The view screen flickered, and a stern-looking alien appeared, his features sharp and angular. "I am Councillor Zahn of the Galactic Council," he said, his voice cold and formal. "I demand an immediate audience with your planet's leaders to discuss the recent incident and your sudden possession of advanced technology." Phillips and Graves exchanged a worried look. They both knew that the future of humanity might depend on their ability to navigate the treacherous waters of galactic diplomacy. The war had been won, but the real battle, it seemed, was just beginning. Phillips stood in the Galactic Council's gleaming chamber, the alien representatives towering over him in their raised seats. The room hummed and clicked with dozens of unfamiliar languages. Humanity's delegation consisted of himself, General Graves, and a handful of Earth's top diplomats and scientists. They faced the stern visage of Councillor Zahn, his dark eyes glittering coldly. Zahn spoke, his voice amplified and translated. "You stand accused of violating Galactic Law 37A, the unauthorized possession and use of advanced technology by an underdeveloped race. This council has irrefutable evidence that you have reverse-engineered FTL drives from the crashed Draconis ship on your world." Murmurs rippled through the chamber. Phillips saw a few representatives lean forward, their interest piqued. "Your sudden technological leap, combined with your defeat of Korvac's forces, has disrupted the balance of power. Many here see you as a threat, a wild card that could destabilize the peace we have maintained for centuries." "Peace?" General Graves scoffed. "Where was this council when Korvac attacked us? We had no choice but to defend ourselves." Zahn slammed a clawed fist on his podium. You will surrender all your FTL technology to us immediately and submit to council oversight. Failure to comply will result in severe consequences for your world." The human delegation bristled. Graves stepped forward, his jaw set. "We will not be bullied into giving up our only means of defense. The Draconis already showed us what's out there. We have a right to protect ourselves." The chamber erupted into shouting, alien representatives arguing and gesticulating. Phillips could see this spiraling out of control. He stepped forward and raised his hands. "Councillors, please," his voice cut through the din, "if I may offer a proposal." Zahn narrowed his eyes but nodded for Phillips to continue. Phillips took a deep breath. "We are willing to share our FTL technology with the Council. In exchange, we request a seat on this Council and a voice in galactic affairs." The chamber fell silent. Phillips pressed on. "Humanity has shown that we can responsibly wield this technology. We could have used it to conquer, but instead we used it to defend, to protect. We believe our perspective could be valuable here." "You dare demand a seat at this table?" Zahn hissed. But Phillips saw a few other representatives leaning back, considering. A willowy alien with translucent skin spoke. "The humans' proposal has merit. Their technology could benefit us all, and their unique viewpoint may be refreshing on this council." A scaled alien nodded. "I move to put it to a vote. All in favor of granting Earth provisional membership and accepting their technology in exchange for their adherence to our laws?" Phillips held his breath as clawed, tentacled, and fingered appendages rose around the chamber. It was close, but the eyes had it. Zahn glowered, but could not argue with the Council's will. "Very well. Earth will be granted a provisional seat on this Council. But be warned, Ambassador Phillips. Many here will be watching your species very closely. We will not tolerate any further disruptions to the galactic order." As the Council session ended, Phillips shook hands with General Graves, both shocked by the turn of events. Earth had a foothold in the galactic community now, but Phillips knew their struggle was just beginning. All around them, alien eyes watched, some curious, some calculating, and some openly hostile. Humanity had stepped onto a much larger stage, and Phillips could only hope they were ready for the role they would have to play. The Galactic Council chamber buzzed with tension as Phillips took his seat at the curved table. Representatives from a myriad of alien races eyed him with expressions ranging from curiosity to open hostility. The Zorgon delegation, led by their hawkish ambassador Krell, glared at Phillips with undisguised malice. As the session began, Krell wasted no time in launching his attack. He rose to his feet, his black armor gleaming under the chamber's lights. "The Zorgon Imperium moves for immediate sanctions against the humans and the imposition of strict limits on their use of FTL technology," Krell declared, his voice booming across the chamber. "Their reckless actions against the Draconis and their sudden leap in technological capability pose a clear and present danger to the stability of this council and the galaxy at large." Murmurs of agreement rose from several other delegations. Phillips gripped the edge of the table, his knuckles whitening. He had expected this, but the vehemence of Krell's assault still caught him off guard. As the debate grew heated, with more and more races seeming to rally to Krell's side, Phillips felt a tap on his shoulder. He turned to see Krell himself looming over him, a predatory smile on his face. "Walk with me, human," Krell said, his tone making it clear that it was not a request. Phillips followed Krell out of the chamber and into a secluded alcove. The Zorgon ambassador regarded him with cold, calculating eyes. "You must realize your position here is precarious at best," Krell said. "Without strong allies, you will find yourself very alone indeed." Phillips met Krell's gaze unflinchingly. "Is that a threat, Ambassador?" Krell chuckled, a harsh, grating sound. "Merely an observation. The Zorgon Imperium is willing to extend its hand in friendship to shield you from those who would see your race subjugated and controlled. All we ask in return is that you share your FTL technology exclusively with us and join us in a mutual defense pact against the Draconis." Phillips's mind raced. He knew a devil's bargain when he heard one. The Zorgans were no friends to humanity. They merely wanted to use Earth as a pawn in their own power plays. "I'm afraid I must decline your generous offer," Phillips said, his voice dripping with sarcasm. "Earth will not be a mere vassal state, dancing to the Zorgans' tune." Krell's eyes narrowed. "You are making a grave mistake, human. You need us more than you know." With that, the Zorgan ambassador spun on his heel and stalked away, leaving Phillips alone with his thoughts. Over the next few days, Phillips worked tirelessly to build alliances with other council races. He found an unexpected ally in the Lumina, a race of energy beings renowned for their wisdom and commitment to justice. In a private meeting with the Lumina ambassador, a being of pure, shimmering light, Phillips made his case. "The Zorgans seek to dominate, not cooperate," Phillips said. "They see my people as a threat to their power, but we want only to be equal partners in this great galactic community." The Lumina ambassador pulsed with understanding. "You speak truth, human. The Zorgans have long sought to impose their will on others. We will stand with you against their machinations." With the Lumina's support, Phillips was able to gather a coalition of like-minded races. Together they were able to block the Zorgans' efforts to isolate and sanction Earth. Just as it seemed the political crisis had been averted, a new threat emerged. A Lumina scout ship patrolling the edges of Council space sent back an urgent message. A massive Draconis fleet, far larger than the one that had attacked Earth, had been spotted massing on the border. The news sent shockwaves through the Council. Korvac, it appeared, had not been idle in the wake of his defeat. He had been gathering his forces, preparing for a full-scale invasion of the galactic core. In the face of this existential threat, the bickering and infighting of the Council races fell away. Even the Zorgons, faced with the prospect of a Draconis conquest, grudgingly agreed to set aside their differences and unite against the common enemy. As the Council scrambled to mobilize its defenses, all eyes turned to Earth and its FTL technology. What had once been seen as a threat was now the galaxy's best hope for survival. Phillips, thrust into the center of the maelstrom, knew that the coming war would test humanity as never before. But with the fate of the galaxy hanging in the balance, there could be no holding back. Earth would fight alongside its new allies to the bitter end. As the first reports of skirmishes along the border began to filter in, Phillips steeled himself for the long struggle ahead. The road would be hard and bloody, but he knew in his heart that humanity would rise to the challenge. They had come too far, sacrificed too much to falter now. The galaxy was on the brink, and Earth stood at the center of the storm. The die was cast, the battle lines drawn. The war for the future had begun. The Galactic Council chamber was abuzz with frantic activity. Representatives from every corner of the galaxy worked feverishly at their stations, poring over data and coordinating their forces. In the center of it all stood Phillips, his uniform now adorned with the insignia of a fleet commander. "The Draconis fleet is on the move," a Lumina technician reported, her crystalline fingers dancing over a holographic display. "They're heading straight for the Zorgan homeworld." Phillips nodded grimly. The Zorgans had been pushing for the Council to take a more aggressive stance against the Draconis, but now that their own world was under threat, they were suddenly eager to cooperate. "What's the status of our fleet?" Phillips asked. "All ships are in position and ready to jump on your command," a grizzled Zorgan admiral replied. "But I must warn you, human, our chances of victory are slim. The Draconis have a new weapon, something we've never seen before." Phillips frowned. He had suspected as much. In every engagement so far, the Draconis had seemed to anticipate their every move, countering their tactics with uncanny precision. "We have no choice," Phillips said. "We have to stop them here and now, or the entire galaxy will fall." He turned to the assembled council members. "I know we have our differences, but today we fight as one, for the future of all our peoples." A chorus of assent rose from the gathered races. Phillips felt a swell of pride. Just a few short months ago, he had been a simple engineer, dreaming of the stars. Now, he stood at the helm of the most powerful fleet in galactic history, ready to lead them into battle. "All ships prepare to jump on my mark," Phillips ordered. 3, 2, 1, mark! The Council fleet leapt forward, crossing vast distances in the blink of an eye. As they dropped out of FTL, they found themselves face to face with the Draconis Armada. The enemy ships were massive, bristling with weapons, and shielded by a strange, shimmering energy field. "Evasive maneuvers," Phillips shouted as the Draconis opened fire. "All ships engage at will." The battle was joined, the void of space lit up by the flashes of countless weapons. The Council ships darted and weaved, using their superior speed and maneuverability to outflank the lumbering Draconis vessels. But every time they seemed to gain an advantage, the enemy would counter with uncanny precision, as if they knew exactly what the Council fleet was going to do before they did it. "We're losing ships fast," a panicked voice crackled over the comm. "We can't take much more of this." Phillips gritted his teeth. They needed to end this, and fast, and that meant taking out Korvac himself. "All ships concentrate fire on the flagship," Phillips ordered. "We're going in." His own vessel, a sleek FTL-equipped frigate, surged forward, weaving through the chaos of the battle. As they approached the massive Draconis flagship, Phillips felt a sense of déjà vu. He had been here before, in a different ship, facing a different foe. But the stakes were the same. The fate of the galaxy hung in the balance. Suddenly, a familiar voice crackled over the comm. "Phillips, fancy meeting you here." Phillips felt his blood run cold. He knew that voice. Zorax, but how? The Draconis technician laughed. "Did you really think you could trust me? I've been working for Korvac all along, you fool. And thanks to you, we now have the secret of your precious FTL technology." Phillips slammed his fist on the console. He had been played, tricked into leading the enemy right to the heart of the Council's defenses. But there was no time for recriminations now. He had a job to do. "All ships focus fire on the flagship's shield generator," Phillips barked. "We have to take it down." A concentrated barrage of weapons fire slammed into the Draconis ship, and for a moment its shields flickered. Phillips saw his chance. "Ramming speed," he ordered. "Aim for the bridge." His crew looked at him in shock, but Phillips was resolute. He knew what he had to do. As his ship hurtled towards the flagship, Phillips opened a channel to the fleet. "It's been an honor serving with you all. Give 'em hell for me." Then, with a final defiant roar, he activated his ship's FTL drive, pouring every ounce of power into the engines. The frigate leapt forward, crossing the distance to the flagship in an instant. Phillips caught a glimpse of Zorax's shocked face on the view screen before his ship slammed into the bridge, the antimatter containment fields rupturing on impact. The resulting explosion was blinding, a miniature supernova that engulfed both ships. The Draconis flagship, its command center destroyed, began to list and drift. All around it, the enemy fleet fell into disarray, their coordination gone. The Council ships pressed their advantage, harrying the disorganized Draconis forces. Without their leader and their mysterious new technology, the enemy quickly crumbled. Within hours, the battle was over, the remnants of the Draconis fleet in full retreat. Aboard the Council flagship, the assembled leaders watched in stunned silence as the last of the enemy ships winked out of existence. They had won, but at a terrible cost. "Phillips sacrificed himself to save us all," the Lumina ambassador said softly. "His name will be remembered for generations to come." The Zorgan admiral nodded solemnly. He was a true warrior and a credit to his species. Earth should be proud. In the days that followed, the Council races worked to solidify their new alliance. Earth, now a full member of the Council, played a key role in the negotiations. The shared experience of the war had forged bonds that would not easily be broken. But even as the galaxy began to heal, there were whispers of new dangers lurking in the shadows. The Draconis had been defeated, but they were not the only threat out there. And with Earth now a major player on the galactic stage, they would inevitably be drawn into the intrigues and power struggles of this brave new world. For now, though, there was a moment of peace, a chance to reflect on all that had been lost and all that had been gained. The future was uncertain, but one thing was clear. Humanity's destiny was now intertwined with that of the cosmos itself, and whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together as part of something greater than themselves. Years passed since the Great War against the Draconis. Earth grew in prominence, taking a central role in the Galactic Council. Human inventions spread far and wide as our technology was eagerly sought by countless alien races. Our culture, too, began to permeate the galaxy as species after species became enamored with Terran customs, art, and ways of thinking. But not everyone celebrated humanity's ascent. The Zorgons, still nursing the wounds of their defeat and the shame of their exposed Draconis ties, bristled at the new order. Hardliners among them longed for the bygone days when the strong commanded the weak. They found their champion in Krell, the former ambassador who had once tried to strong-arm Earth into servitude. Krell's voice rang out across Zorgon frequencies. He railed against what he called the unnatural state of affairs, arguing that humanity's meteoric rise threatened the rightful order. He pointed to their FTL technology, insisting it gave them an unjust edge over all other races. As his rhetoric grew more inflammatory, his following swelled. Tensions ratcheted up notch by notch. Human colonies and ships fell prey to a string of attacks and sabotage, with all clues suggesting Zorgon involvement. Earth's president, the battle-hardened General Graves, demanded the Council take action, but the political appetite for confronting the Zorgons was sorely lacking. Krell made his move. In a declaration that shocked the galaxy, he announced the birth of a new galactic power, the Zorgon supremacy. He called on all races to join him in toppling what he decried as a human-dominated council. To the dismay of many, several races answered his call, even some former council members. They flocked to Krill's banner, enticed by visions of power and a return to the old ways. As the specter of a new war loomed, Earth faced a momentous decision. Would it stand firm on principle and fight for the Council, or pull back to safeguard its own interests? Graves, his hair now grey and his face lined with age, sought counsel at the memorial to Phillips and the fallen heroes of the Draconis War. In the end, Earth cast its lot with its allies, even in the face of daunting odds. The Council forces, spearheaded by human FTL ships and tactics, clashed with the Zorgon supremacy in a series of desperate engagements. They managed to hold the line, but the cost was steep. Many of Earth's finest, including some of Philip's former wingmates, made the ultimate sacrifice. The human fleet was left ravaged. The final confrontation came in the skies over Krell's bastion, a heavily defended Zorgon world. In a twist of fate, it was Zorax, the one-time Draconis mole, who held the key to victory. After years in a council cell, racked with regret, he yearned for redemption. He divulged a critical flaw in the Zorgon defenses, giving Graves and his strike team a shot at Krell's inner sanctum. Graves and Krell met in single combat on the planet's surface, two old soldiers in a battle to the death. Graves emerged victorious, but at the price of his own life. As word of Krell's fall spread, the Zorgon supremacy began to disintegrate. From the ashes of the conflict, the surviving council races forged a new compact, one founded on mutual esteem and collaboration, not brute force. Earth, bloodied but unbowed, assumed a leading role in this reborn council, committed to upholding the hard-fought peace. In a quiet corner of Earth, a young girl gazed up at the night sky, her mind afire with tales of Phillips, Graves, and humanity's trials among the stars. She dreamed of a future out there, where humans and aliens stood side by side as equals, united in a shared destiny of discovery and wonder. The path ahead was fraught with uncertainty, but guided by the light of Earth's heroes, a brighter tomorrow seemed within reach. 10 years had passed since the fall of the Zorgon supremacy, and a fragile peace settled over the galaxy. Earth, now a senior member of the reformed Galactic Council, worked diligently alongside its allies to mend the scars of conflict and foster unity among the stars. However, an unforeseen danger loomed on the horizon, originating from a most unexpected source, the Lumina, once steadfast friends of humanity. Unbeknownst to the Council, the Lumina had been conducting clandestine experiments with a novel form of energy they dubbed the cosmic force. Believing this power held the potential for transcendence beyond the confines of material existence, they delved deeper into its mysteries, but their tampering unleashed a maelstrom of unintended consequences. Across the galaxy, the very fabric of space-time began to unravel. Planets crumbled under the onslaught of gravitational anomalies, while stars flickered and faded, their light consumed by the encroaching darkness. Entire systems vanished, swallowed whole by enigmatic voids that defied comprehension. The Council, alarmed by the escalating crisis, raced to uncover the cause and contain the destruction. As they delved further, a chilling revelation came to light. The Lumina's experiments had not only destabilized the present, but also sent shockwaves rippling through the past and future. The tapestry of history itself had begun to fray, timelines colliding and merging in a chaotic tangle. Zorax, now a living legend, stepped forward to lead a hand-picked team of the Council's finest on a desperate mission to set things right. Armed with cutting-edge human FTL drives and Lumina temporal technology, they embarked on a perilous odyssey through the ages, seeking the pivotal moment when the experiments went awry. Hurtling through the corridors of time, they bore witness to the rise and fall of civilizations, the birth and death of stars, and the very genesis of the cosmos. Along the way, they encountered distorted reflections of themselves, as well as echoes of those long gone. In one heart-wrenching moment, they crossed paths with a young idealistic Phillips, his fate not yet sealed by the Draconis' war. As the mission reached its crescendo, Zorax faced a gut-wrenching realization. To truly mend the fractured timeline, he would have to allow history to unfold as it had, even if it meant sacrificing those he held dear. Changing pivotal events like Phillips's heroic stand against the Draconis could unravel the very fabric of reality. With heavy hearts, the team made the agonizing decision to let the past play out as it must. Instead, they focused their efforts on preventing the Lumina's fateful experiments from ever taking place. In a climactic confrontation at the dawn of Lumina civilization, they made an impassioned plea, laying bare the catastrophic risks of tampering with the cosmic force. Chastened and enlightened, the Lumina conceded the folly of their pursuit. They vowed to abandon their dangerous experiments and instead work alongside the other races to seek knowledge through safer, more responsible means. As Zorax and his team returned to their own era, they found a galaxy both familiar and subtly changed. The wounds of war still lingered, but so too did the bonds of fellowship forged in the face of adversity. Earth, the Council, and all the peoples of the galaxy continued to chart a course through an uncertain future, united in their determination to shape a better tomorrow. Beneath a canopy of stars, an aged Zorax sat in quiet contemplation, reflecting on the twisting path that had led him to this moment. His thoughts drifted to Phillips, Graves, and the countless others who had given everything for the greater good. As his eyes drifted shut, he saw not the endless expanse of space, but the unwavering light of hope, an eternal beacon against the vast darkness. You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.